Din Djarin seeks a Jedi to train Grogu. A critical duel is waged on Caladan. Luke Skywalker trains his first student and more as the Sky Guys are back for Week 7 of Ahsoka 101.
All right, we are back here for the final week of Ahsoka 101. We are finally taking Ahsoka off the animated screen into live action. I'm one of your hosts, Mike Phillips. Join me today, the man who's voice your narration every single week. Pete Consadori is here. Pete, how are you?
Doing well. Thanks for having me, of course, and excited to talk Ahsoka. As always, I want to credit my background to AP Tyler 308 from Reddit. Definitely a cool one, so I want to make sure he gets the credit there.
Yep, also with us there today, the Magistrate of Caladan is here with us. Nick Fraietta is here. Nick, how are you?
Doing great. I got to watch a little Boba Fett in this one, but the good Boba Fett. So it was fun.
It was certainly fun here. So, Pete, people want to subscribe to us here on the Sky Guys. They can do so Apple Podcasts, Google Play, TuneIn, Stitcher, Spotify, Amazon, all usual suspects. Simply search for the Sky Guys, your favorite podcast platforms. You find all our episodes there. And the Ahsoka 101 is ending this week, but that doesn't mean you can go back. You don't have to go back and listen to the previous 6 weeks of it.
Yeah, if you want to be prepared for Ahsoka, definitely give us a listen, but you have to be subscribed. So definitely subscribe.
Absolutely here. And Nick, if you want to follow us on social media, how can they do that?
At Sky Guys Podcast. That's on Twitter. It's on Instagram. It's on TikTok. And soon to be on Threads.
Yes, the newly founded Threads. So that's going to be happening here. You can check out the YouTube version, Mike Phillips on YouTube. The podcast graphics are up there as well. And since we are in the Mando era of Ahsoka, we're going to go to our pal Grogu today. We brought him in for the situation here because Ahsoka does reveal Grogu's name to the world.
I always find it funny that the brickheads just like phase in and out of your background.
Yeah, I was trying to show Mike something on my phone when we were between records here, and it was very hard for him to see.
Yeah, it certainly is here. So let's get to some Star Wars news. And Nick, this was this little bit back a little bit, but this is an interesting one I wanted to touch on a little bit.
Yeah, first off, I want to ask how you know this.
There was a news article about this.
Okay. So there's a movie coming out, which is good news here. I see it's coming out to Netflix. I didn't know that until now. I thought you wanted us to go to the theaters. Movie coming out on Netflix called Rebel Moon, Zack Snyder movie. And after Mike did some research, did a little digging, read an article, turns out this movie Rebel Moon was originally pitched as a Star Wars movie after the Disney acquisition of Lucasfilm.
Yes. And
it was rejected because it was going to be a little more too mature, rated R, not using any established characters in Star Wars. And it was supposed to be some sort of 7 samurai in space. And it was eventually reworked into the movie it is now.
Yeah, so Pete, I'm intrigued by this movie here because I know Zack Snyder's hit or miss, but like the fact that he had an idea that Disney had no interest in definitely raises my antenna about this movie.
Yeah, I mean, look, if I'll see what it looks like when it comes out. You know me, I'm cautiously optimistic and cautiously negative about these kind of things. I don't know what to say until I kind of see the rubber hit the road here. So it's interesting. It's piqued my interest, but I'll let you know what I feel when I see a trailer. I'm assuming a trailer hasn't gone out yet.
I don't think so.
Yeah, so we'll see.
Yeah. So another thing is I just doing a little bit of research on my own here. This is actually called, so it's called Rebel Moon, obviously, but it is also known as Rebel Moon Part 1, which means
there's
we should be getting more.
Yeah. I'm intrigued by this, Nick. I think this is something that we should keep an eye on this, and maybe in our offseason we can talk about this movie, see if this would have worked as a Star Wars project.
Yeah, after reading a little bit more, I'm definitely in. I was in to begin with, but I'm happy that I don't have to go to the theaters to see this now because let's get real. I don't know who's going to go with me, and I don't want to go to the movies alone. I haven't done that yet in my life, and I don't know if I plan to. Which, to be honest, I don't know why it's considered weird. Like, it's weird to go to the movies alone, but it's not weird to do other things alone. Meanwhile, you're not supposed to talk in the movie anyway, so what's the difference if you're with someone?
For me, I've
never done it. I've never done it, and I don't see anything wrong with it.
I've done it. There's nothing wrong with it, in my opinion. I think it's just like, especially if you're going at off-peak times, like why not just go by yourself and just like have more more leg room, more freedom to chill. Like
I almost did it. I saw The Flash a few weeks ago in theaters, and I had still yet to see Guardians 3. And because I was behind. There's a whole thing. I couldn't go. I went away the weekend it came out, and I was gonna go right after because there was a showing right after, but everyone I was with didn't want to go, and then I was like, "Do I wait here an hour just to see a movie by myself?" And I decided to hit the road.
Yeah, and an interesting casting choice note in this movie that's coming out. Like we got Ray Fisher came over from the Zack Snyder verse in DC. He's in this movie, and Anthony Hopkins in this movie as well.
I'm looking at the cast list now. I don't really recognize any of these names. I don't know if you do. Besides them,
Besides those two, not really. But this is a Netflix property, so I'm not surprised that we don't have as many big names.
and Ray Fisher's Cyborg, right?
Yeah, he was Cyborg.
Yeah, I mean, look, I I'm very excited to see this now. I wasn't before we started talking about it, but the more I'm reading, I'm actually very excited.
Yeah, so Pete, here's the premise of the movie. In a universe controlled by the corrupt government of the Motherworld, the moon of Velt is threatened by the forces of the Imperium, the army of the Motherworld controlled by Regent Balisarius. Cora, a former member of the Imperium who seeks redemption for her past in the leadership of the oppressive government, takes herself to recruit warriors from across the galaxy to make a stand across the Motherworld's forces before they return to the planet. This screams Star Wars.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel there are protections on intellectual property. Like I feel like I don't know. Can they do this? Like can they can they get away with this where it's pretty much because I mean it was also like you said it was said to be a Star Wars movie that was pitched. Now they're like, well, you don't want it, so we're gonna still create this Star Wars movie, but like change it a little bit so that it's not cheating. You know, it's like you said, scream Star Wars story.
Yeah, it does. We'll definitely keep an eye on this movie in the future. But Nick, anything else on these bar? Is that we got for now?
No, that's it. I'm looking at a lot of these. I'm looking at a lot of the actors and actresses who are in it. There's a lot of people that I do recognize, not by their name or anything, but a lot of the stuff they're in, and I'm very excited for it now.
Yeah, for sure. Let's go ahead now to live action Ahsoka here, the final part of Ahsoka 101. So we've covered all of her animated adventures here. We get the tease of her first, Nick, in season 2 of Mandalorian, episode, I think, chapter 11. I want to say when we first meet Bo-Katan in live action. And Mando's trying to find a Jedi, and Bo-Katan says, go find Ahsoka Tano. And then 2 episodes later, Pete, we find Ahsoka Tano.
We do. So I was in charge of chapter 13 here. Chapter 13. And it's a pretty there's not much that goes in chapter 13. A lot of the big points are Ahsoka. Well, Ahsoka's trying to get into this town, this area, I guess. And the magistrate doesn't want her around, obviously, because she wants to just keep control of her citizens. By the way, I think there's like a fan theory that magistrate is actually someone from Dathomir, one of the Night Sisters, because she's wearing red, and you know Ahsoka mentions that her whole planet was destroyed by the clones or whatever. But anyway, Mando shows up trying to look for Ahsoka, and the magistrate hires Din Djarin to go and kill the Jedi, Ahsoka Tano, while he's looking for her in the woods. Ahsoka finds him. They fight a little bit. Din Djarin says, hang on. So I know your name is Ahsoka Tano. Bo-Katan sent me. I have this kid that needs to be trained by a Jedi. What can you do? She talks with the child for a little bit, and then the big reveal of his actual name, Grogu, comes to screen. And pretty much after that, there's some talk about the Jedi Order. There's some talk about where she came from, what she wants to do. And they go and fight the magistrate, take the town back. Ahsoka to the magistrate says, where's Grand Admiral Thrawn? So there you go, another name drop right there. That, again, tells the future. We know Grand Admiral Thrawn's going to be in the Ahsoka show. And then toward the end, Ahsoka's like, okay, well, like, you helped me, but I can't train the kid. You got to bring him to the Jedi Temple, the ruins. And if Grogu decides to choose that path, a Jedi will be searching for him, pretty much. And that's the end of the episode. So super quick when it comes to Ahsoka. Yeah, and that's pretty much it. That's the spark notes of the 40-minute episode.
Yeah, and Pete, the one thing I like about this, if you have not really gotten into the Mando and for some reason you're into this, is like this episode is very standalone-ish, where like you get Ahsoka's entire story in one episode there. You don't need to watch like multiple.
100%. And you get the previously on little snippet too. So if you wanted to just watch chapter 13, you would understand it completely. Like you said, completely standalone, because it is mainly Ahsoka and there's a lot of action. And live action Ahsoka, this is the very first time we're seeing it. We're seeing Rosario Dawson and her lightsaber skills. Pretty good. If I would say for the first time, I would say I don't know if she has any other combat expertise when it comes to movie making or even, personal experience. But yeah, it's a standalone episode. It's very good. We get the Grand Admiral Thrawn drop, and then we later find out in the trailer that he will be in it, or at least mentioned, and we get the back of his head at some point. So, that's pretty much it. That's probably what I'm thinking is going to be the takeaway, is that we set everything up for the show pretty much.
Yeah, Nick, a couple of things I want to touch on here before we go on to your episode here. I think number one, this is the first, this is the big choice where Disney has waffled back and forth between when they bring the characters from live action to animation to live action. Like, do we bring CGI it and cast the same act and do a voiceover? Do we cast the same actor, or we cast a new actor to play the role? They went with
Can you repeat that?
Yeah, sure. So when they go from animated to live action characters, Disney has gone, I think, one of three ways. Either they CGI the character and use the voice actor like they did for Cad Bane and they do for Zeb to some degree. They bring the actor into live action, which is the Thrawn example. Ahsoka is the example where they bring a brand new actor into that character. It's Ashley Eckstein voices Ahsoka and all the animated stuff. And here we get Rosario Dawson playing the character here. So did you like the choice and how she portrays the character?
Me or him?
You.
I can't think of anyone else. So yeah, I mean, some people are able to play the character in live action. Unfortunately, Ashley is not. If you'd seen her, it just doesn't look the part. It's just not. She just looks nothing like the character. It just doesn't work. If you look at Bo-Katan, for example, it works. They made it work. It's okay. I don't know if they could have made it work with Ashley, so I'm okay with the decision. And if you put me and said, okay, we have to recast the character, who is it going to be? I don't really have an answer for you, so I'm perfectly fine with the choice.
Yeah, and Pete, I also like the fact that this version Rosario Dawson plays is basically the grown-up version of Ahsoka, where Ashley Eckstein's basically voicing her as a teenager or a young adult, and they're getting this is, I'd say, what, 42, 43-ish year old Ahsoka.
Yeah, it works. I think, like you said, they have time on their side a little bit here because it is the adult version of Ahsoka, and they can kind of get away from that voice actor if they needed to. And like Nick was saying, unfortunately, the actress I just don't think would be able to portray Ahsoka in a authentic way. So I think the casting works.
All right, and number two here, Pete. Next point I want to sort of go back to from this episode is the whole idea of Ahsoka will not train Grogu to be a Jedi, and this obviously disappoints Mando because he was told, "Oh, find her, she'll help you." But then this ties back a couple of things we cover already, which is A, her split with a Jedi where she doesn't fully believe in their methods, and B, she references the fact that Grogu's attached to you. And this is something I've seen be very dangerous for a Jedi. So I did think it was nice we got those two callbacks with this character.
100%. I mean, it shows that Ahsoka still has all that Jedi knowledge, but also I don't think she wants to get involved. I think she has her own mission, and that mission is for what we're going to see in the Ahsoka show, and that's to find Grand Admiral Thrawn, to find Ezra. I just think she's hyper focused on what she's doing, and like you said, she has that Jedi mentality and that Jedi knowledge to say this is the justification as to why, not just because I don't want to and I'm dealing with something else.
Yeah. Nick, what was your takeaway? Remember the first time when Ahsoka's no, I'm not going to do this. Were you that makes sense? Were you I wonder why not? Did you buy her rationale for the take?
Yeah. No, I bought her rationale, and the first thing I did was oh, here we go. It's fetch quest. They're going to find who's going to do it now. It's here's another 2 episodes of finding who's going to be the one to train him or no one train him. I kind of thought originally, maybe he won't be trained. I actually thought the original part of when I watched The Mandalorian, which I still truly believe a little bit, is the entire thing in season 1 and season 2 is Din Djarin trying to get Grogu back to his people.
Yes.
And we were led to believe that meant the Jedi. But I've always had another take on it, that it doesn't mean that, and it means the Yoda species. So part of me then was like, okay, this is the first step towards that. She's saying no. Now he's going to shift his attention to the species. That didn't happen, obviously. But I still truly believe that the ending of this show will see more Yoda species, like the end of this Mando verse.
Yeah, that's for sure here. And I'll go back to the other big thing here because we talked about last week on the Rebels 101 when Nick D'Alessio was with us. We talked about Ahsoka 101 for Rebels. Talked about a little bit about Ahsoka's adventures here. And it's interesting that she's the one who brings up the name drop of Grand Admiral Thrawn. It was a big presence in Rebels. Talk about him next week. We discuss Rebels as a whole here. So, Nick, this broke the internet when she dropped that line. I know that there's a point in Rebels we talk about where she, at the end, goes with Sabine to go try and look for Ezra, but interesting that she's the one who brings Thrawn's name in, considering they had no actual interaction on the show.
That is interesting. I didn't realize that, but now that you say it, it's true. I guess it had to be her because Sabine wasn't in the episode.
Yeah. I did think that was interesting though, Pete, especially because like it's such a big name drop that like the Rebels fans love Thrawn as probably the most iconic villain to come from the animated shows. So having Ahsoka bring him in here, and this is gonna be a big basically this was the backdoor pilot for her own show, was sort of here's the log line, I'm gonna go do this.
Yeah, it was huge. I mean, this was literally the confirmation that we were going to get more of the Rebels storyline right when that name was dropped. You can't like say that as a character and not explore it. So
Yeah,
that
and
was the start of it.
Nick, correct me if I'm wrong. Wasn't her show announced basically like 3 weeks after this episode aired?
Oh, I don't know. I don't know.
It was right around when this episode like aired. I'm pretty sure. I'll double check the math on that, but I do think there's a lot of fun here. I think this is a difficult challenge to try and nail the casting of this character. I think they did nail it.
Yeah, I'm with you. I agree.
Yeah, it was announced in December of 2020. This show.
That was a little after this. This finale ended around November of 2020, so that episode must have been in October of 2020.
Yeah, the chapter 13 of Jedi originally aired November 27th, 2020.
No, I was a little off on that, but all right. Yeah.
Week or two afterwards, we're getting the announcement of the show.
All right.
All right, so now the next one is the surprise appearance. We did not think we were getting her Book of Boba Fett, Nick, but she does show up.
She did. She did show up. She was not in nearly as much of the episode as I remember her being in, but I rewatched this episode, and we'll do a spark note here. It starts on Tatooine with Cobb Vanth, going back and forth with some pikes, saying "Get out of here," this and that. Anyway, Din Djarin flies to where Luke and Grogu are to go see Grogu, and he has to wait and wait and wait and wait, and then eventually, while he's waiting, he imagines, "Oh, there's Luke. Wait, nope, it's Ahsoka." So Ahsoka's there, and he kind of just says, "What are you doing here?" And she says, "I'm an old friend of the family." I mean, which couldn't be any more true. And she realizes that the purpose of Din Djarin being there is to give Grogu a little a gift, which we then learn later on is a like a little piece of armor.
Yeah, it's chainmail, I think.
Chainmail, that's right. Yeah, yeah. So she kind of interrogates him a little bit and says, "Are you doing this for you, or are you doing this for him? Like, trust me, he's fine here, and if he sees you, this is only going to become more difficult for him." Like, basically telling Din, "Why are you here? For yourself or for the kid?" And he then trusts the gift with her. He takes off. She's there. Her and Luke watch Grogu train a little bit more, and at some point the gift is given to Luke, where Luke then gives Grogu the decision: you can either take the gift from the Mandalorian, and your training will have to stop, or you could take Yoda's lightsaber and continue to be trained as a Jedi. And we then learn later on that Grogu chooses the gift and reunites with Din.
Yeah, and Ahsoka disappears at the first half of the episode. Once they leave Luke the first time, she doesn't come back.
Yes, yeah. She's with Mando a little bit, then she's with Luke for like one scene, and that's it.
Yeah, so Pete, remember when this episode came out, we joked this is the cameo party episode of Star Wars here. And like, I don't think anybody had Ahsoka showing up on the bingo card for that series.
No, I mean this was Cameo Central. This was trying to save a show that was abysmal for the first 5 episodes.
Four,
Four, excuse me. And Yeah, I don't know. You guys may disagree with me, but I think literally the only thing that this shows is that Ahsoka's a smart character and is trying to still use the Jedi ways while not being a Jedi. You know,
I do agree. I think that the biggest takeaway though is how calm and collected she is.
Yes.
Now, not that she wasn't calm to begin with, but she shows great maturity. And also in that Mandalorian episode that you covered, same thing. She just shows great maturity. She's very calm, collected, and she's not teaching, she's not learning lessons anymore. She's teaching lessons. She's teaching Din a lesson, and that's full circle.
Well, I mean, she is older significantly than both Din and Luke Skywalker.
I guess so. She's like what, 10 years on Din?
She's probably got 10 on Din, probably like 15 on Luke at least.
Yeah, I'm gonna let you know, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, well, Nick looks at Pete. I want to point out here, little nugget here is that R2D2 in this episode, and I want to say this might be the first time that Ahsoka has seen R2 since I think like Clone Wars. So I think that was definitely a fun callback to have an R2 lead Mando to Ahsoka.
would she have seen him at Padme's funeral?
I don't know.
The Jedi?
I don't know if they were maybe on Bail's ship. I don't know if they were at the funeral.
Yeah. I mean, on screen, this is the first time since Clone Wars they meet.
Yeah.
But just playing stupid and being like, hey, I wonder if it happened here, even though we didn't say it. So
She's got 17 years on Luke.
Yeah.
And Din Djarin's birth date's actually not specified, but I would imagine he's about 10 when he got captured. Or not captured, but rescued.
I've been a little.
Would you agree?
I've been a little younger. Maybe he was like 7.
Let's agree on 8.
Yeah, 8 years old.
All right, so if he's 8 at that time, then she's got like 6 years on him.
Yeah.
7 years on him. So a little bit older than him as well.
Yeah, so I mean, like she's older than both of them, and she's like teaching them valuable lessons here. And I did think like the way she handles Mando so smoothly to like basically like get him to realize the decision he's making, I think is very clever, Nick, because like you could have had a very brute force, like you can't see him, this is against the way, but she calmly sort of guides him the correct conclusion of like,
yeah,
you're not here for him, you're here for you. And like if you want to give him this, like we'll do it, not you.
I'm with you. Everyone has different ways of learning. Sometimes some people learn from brute force. Some people learn from being guided in the right direction. Some people are visual learners, and I guess she kind of guessed, but she was right, and it helped Din learn a valuable lesson. And I mean, kind of didn't matter anyway because he went back to him anyway. But at the time, it was a very valuable lesson.
Yeah, and Pete, I did think the interaction with Luke Skywalker was obviously very cool because she spent all this time with his father, and now she's with him, and Luke is sort of like looking to her because she's one of the few like people experiencing the old Jedi ways at that point. And he's looking to her for guidance. Like Grogu's heart is in this, and like I think she gives pretty sage advice there of like like let him like you don't have to follow the old ways exactly as they were. Like they're old for a reason. Like you can forge your own path, and that sort of inspires him to give Grogu the choice.
Yeah, and that carries over from Clone Wars. Following the old ways almost got her in deep trouble for no reason. So it's cool to see that family dynamic between the two. You can tell that they're talking almost like family and not just acquaintances or friends. You can kind of see that connection, which is a nice touch, especially because of obviously Ahsoka's history with his father. So very cool part.
Yeah, Nick. Essentially, she would have been his aunt in real life, basically, if they had Padme and Anakin actually lived normal lives.
Of course, it would have been Aunt Ahsoka, Uncle Obi-Wan, living on that amazing. That we never talk about how incredible Padme's apartment was in Coruscant.
Or even
that place was unbelievable.
Or even like if they eventually retired from Naboo, like living out there would be incredible.
Yeah, no, you're right. But that apartment is not spoken about enough. How amazing! I mean, they must pay well. The senators must get paid well.
Yeah, I mean, Nick wants to live in that apartment.
That apartment's unbelievable. There's double-sided balconies. It's like it's that. I don't know if you remember it. It's in. I guess it's in Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith, and it's probably in numerous episodes of Clone Wars that I just can't think of. But great apartment.
We talked a couple weeks ago about Hayden Christensen like being in the Ahsoka show. Imagine if Hayden Christensen's flashback is in the Padme apartment. How happy Nick would be.
The apartment's unbelievable. He was there a couple times. I would imagine he's not on the lease.
Probably a regular visitor though.
for the regular visitor, and I don't know. Did they pay Jedi?
I don't think they pay. I don't think they pay Jedi. My guess is probably similar to like the deal was like the church, where it's like you're sort of tax free, but like you can't like you don't get a salary, you don't pay taxes, and you live off donations.
Yeah, I think you're right.
I
I
mean, at one
yeah,
point,
I don't know.
At one point, Darth Vader does call the Jedi a religion, so it does sort of back my point a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, may the force be with you. I mean,
Yep.
it's pretty much taken from religion. So from a religion. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, I
I
think
think it's
you're
donation
right.
based, like you said. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so let's wrap this up here. What less from the 2 live action episodes we've seen here, besides Thrawn, they being the mission here? Like, what else do you think will carry over to the Ahsoka show?
Um, Based on the fact that this is Disney, and the bottom line is all that matters. Grogu and Din.
You're assuming they're showing up.
Yeah,
All right.
So I have a
at the very least mentioned.
Is the Ahsoka show happening after the events of Mandalorian as we know it right now?
I would believe so because everything in the Mandoverse so far seems to be in chronological order, like 1, 2, then what happens, and then Mando 3.
So there's going to be some time between when Ahsoka last saw Sabine, then, because they get together at the end of Rebels.
Yeah, I
You
think
feel
so.
like what's that time disparity? Like the end of Rebels versus where they would be if it's during Mandalorian time.
I know Sabine does say the trail, Nick. It's been a long time when she sees Ahsoka.
Okay.
Yeah, and we don't know. Like we last seen them together in Rebels. Was that the last time? Did they go their separate ways that day? Did they go their separate ways a year later, 5 years later? We don't know.
My guess is that like at some point they stuck together for a little bit and sort of like got nowhere, and then they split up, and then Ahsoka sort of picked up a hint on her own and went back on the show.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah. I think we might get a flashback of that as well, them getting frustrated, sort of breaking up, and sort of like so because we see Sabine just hanging out with all with Ezra's stuff, basically. And that's it for Ahsoka 101. You have completed the 7 weeks of Ahsoka knowledge here. Next up here. Yeah, let's see. We hope you pass the course. Next week, we're going to give you the quick version of Rebels here. We're going to give you what you need to know about the characters of Rebels, the storylines that are still hanging in the air as we get ready for Ahsoka 101, Ahsoka show, which Dave Filoni apparently has said that this is going to be season 5 of Rebels in terms of storyline.
I hope so. That'd be pretty cool.
Yeah.
But I'll believe when I see it.
Yeah, and Nick, our good friend Nick DeLisi was with us last week talking about the Rebels episodes of Ahsoka 101. He's gonna come back. We're gonna talk Rebels 101, give you all the fun stuff you need to know about these characters.
Yeah, and maybe we'll have you guys on the Hyrule guys one day.
Yeah, I am not counting that invite ever.
Have you ever played a Zelda game, Mike?
Not in many years.
Well, that answer was not no, so it's possible that you will be invited.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's what's coming up here next week, and I will say, I'll give a teaser when we do the preview show in 2 weeks here. The Chopper kill count is making a return.
I'm sure it will.
Yes,
I'm hoping.
Yeah, the tracker will at least appear again. We need to get Chopper murdering somebody. And with that, I want to thank you guys for coming on here. Really appreciate it. Pete, people want to find on social media after they do that.
At PJ Consadori 29 on Twitter.
Nick, one more time for social media. How can people follow us?
It's at Sky Guys Podcast. It's on Instagram, it's on Twitter, it's on TikTok, and it's soon to be on Threads.
Absolutely. You can also follow me on Twitter, mphillips331. It's MPHILIPS331. And I'll mention here, I'm also on Threads. Same handle at mphillips331. So that's the Threads update here. That's up for us next week. We'll be back next week for the Rebels 101, maybe what you need to know about Star Wars Rebels. But until then, may the Force be with you.